My family invited me to a wedding and deliberately excluded my wife.
42 years of marriage. That's what the gold lettering on the card celebrated. I'd bought it weeks earlier, choosing words about loyalty and time and everything we'd survived. I never imagined it would become evidence of how easily promises can rot. I came home early that afternoon. Our anniversary dinner reservation had been canceled, a plumbing issue, they said. I was annoyed, thinking fate was just being inconvenient. I didn't realize it was being honest. The house was quiet in a way that felt wrong. Not peaceful, suspicious. Then I heard laughter from the living room, soft, intimate, and unfamiliar. It was my wife's laugh, the one I knew better than my own heartbeat, but it was paired with a voice that didn't belong there. When I stepped into the room, time just stopped. She was sitting close to a man I'd never seen before, her hand on his arm like it had always belonged there. They froze. She didn't scream. He didn't apologize. That silence told me everything. She stood up slowly, caught in a lie too big to fix, and said my name. Gently, the way you speak to someone you're about to shatter. The man even introduced himself, as if good manners could somehow soften betrayal. I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was in a chair across from them, staring at a life I no longer recognized. She didn't deny it. She said it had been happening for months. It wasn't planned. She never meant for it to go this far. All the classic lines people use when they want forgiveness without consequences. She even said she still loved me, just in a different way now. That's when something inside me went quiet. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just felt old, suddenly aware of every single year I had spent believing in something that was gone. I asked her one question. Why our anniversary? She looked down and said she hadn't thought about the date. That answer, that casual disregard, hurt more than the affair itself. I left that evening and didn't return for 3 days. I stayed in a cheap motel by the highway, staring at the ceiling, replaying memories that now felt like scenes from a fictional movie. Our wedding, the birth of our kids, every anniversary toast where she promised forever. When I finally went back, the house felt like a stranger's home. She cried. She said she was confused that this didn't have to be the end of everything. She suggested counseling, rebuilding. But what she didn't get was that honesty after deception isn't healing. It's just damage control. I told her I needed space. She agreed, probably thinking distance would soften me. Instead, it clarified everything. I spoke to a lawyer quietly. I organized my life methodically. I avoided arguments because there was nothing left to fight for. Love that has to beg for respect is already dead. Our kids, not wanting to choose sides, encouraged forgiveness. They talked about long marriages, about making mistakes. But none of them asked how it felt to be betrayed on the one day meant to celebrate commitment. I realized then that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being unheard. She said she ended the affair. She asked me to come back to give us another chance, reminding me of our history, our age, our family. As if the time I invested obligated me to accept humiliation. I told her something she didn't expect. I said, I forgive you. Her relief was immediate. She reached from my hand. Then I said, but I'm still leaving. Forgiveness, I explained, wasn't permission for her to stay in my life. It was my way of not carrying bitterness into the rest of mine. Trust, once shattered, doesn't magically reassemble just because of regret. The divorce was quiet. No drama. Just signatures and silence. 42 years reduced to documents and boxes. She kept the house. I kept my self-respect. Months later, on what would have been our next anniversary, I sat alone in my small apartment, watching the sunrise with a cup of coffee. I didn't feel sadness like I thought I would. I felt something closer to peace. I had lost a wife, but I hadn't lost myself. People sometimes ask if I regret not fighting harder. I tell them I did fight. I fought the moment I chose my dignity over false comfort. Betrayal doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it strips away the illusions and leaves you with something stronger than hope, clarity. My marriage ended on an anniversary, but my life didn't. And that is the difference between loss and survival. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. Take care.